So what veg can you sow in your vegetable garden in September? Now, speaking to many vegetable growers, a lot of them are under the impression that when you get to September, it's too late in the year to plant many vegetables. And in some cases, that's absolutely correct. But September is the perfect time to start sowing vegetable seeds, particularly for winter greens that are going to give you a supply of lovely green vegetables all through the autumn and the winter period. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 7 winter green vegetables that are absolutely perfect for sowing at the beginning of September. And as you can see, I've already started sowing a few varieties a few weeks ago, and I'm going to continue to sow these over the next few weeks to give me that regular supply over the autumn and winter period. The great thing about the vast majority of winter green vegetables is that they're perfectly able to tolerate cold temperatures. So it's absolutely brilliant for adding to those spaces in the garden where you've recently harvested some of your summer vegetables. So I hope the video gives you 1 or 2 suggestions for yourself, so let's get into it. Now, at the time of filming this video, we're right at the end of August and just about to come in September. And as you can see, I've already started a few varieties of the seeds I'm going to show you today. The video today is going to focus on winter greens, but there are plenty of other vegetables that you can sow in September. And there is a video on my channel that I've produced previously that shows you a wider range of vegetables that you can sow in September. And I will add a link to that video in the video description below, so you can check that out in your own time. But today I want to focus on winter greens, and I think these are a really underrated vegetable because they can provide you with that lovely supply of fresh vegetables all through the autumn and winter period. All of these seedlings that you can see on the table in front of me are seedlings that I sowed 2 weeks ago, and all of them are winter greens that I'm going to show you in this video. So I am going to be sowing more of these over the next few weeks. Now, because of the time of the year and the temperature is still quite warm, it is still possible to sow the seedlings that I'm going to show you directly outside because the temperatures of the soil will be warm enough for these seeds to germinate. But as you can see, I've chosen to start my seedlings in small seed trays, and the reason for that is if you look behind me at my vegetable beds, at the moment I've got very limited space, but that will change over the next weeks and months as I start to harvest my vegetables, and therefore these seedlings will be easily transferred into those spaces once they become available. Now, of course, it's worth mentioning that I'm based right in the centre of the UK in growing zone number 8. So depending upon which part of the world you are and depending upon your climate, you may need to slightly adjust your growing time. Now, as I previously mentioned, because of the limited space I have available at the moment in my vegetable beds, I will start all of my seedlings in these quarter trays here, which I think are perfect for seedlings. I try to be efficient with seed sowing and only sow the amount that I need each time, and I find that these quarter trays are really good for limiting the amount that I need to sow. So all I'll do is fill the seed tray up with the multi-purpose compost, and then what I'll do is gently compact the seed compost down with my hand. I'm not trying to firm the compost down too much, just enough so that when the seeds start to germinate, the roots have got something to grow into and bind to, but never over compact your compost. Now, what a lot of people do is sow their seeds over dry compost, then put a sprinkling of compost over their seeds and then water. But the problem with that, particularly as seeds are sometimes so small, is it can flood the compost, and sometimes the seeds can either come out or it can move them around or even make them go quite deep into the compost. So here's a tip that I do that might help you. So I'll get a very light watering container and saturate the compost first. Then I'll let that water just permeate down a little bit until the compost is completely saturated. Then what I'll do is get a packet of my seeds, and then I'll put some seeds in my hand, and then I will sprinkle them over the top of the compost. You don't need to be too precious about spacings because you can separate them out once they've germinated. Then I'll get my fingers and just sprinkle a bit of compost over the top, and then lightly compact the compost down again. Then finally just give it a very light coating of water. Now remember, you've already watered the compost underneath, so there's no need to saturate. And I'd also advise when you're watering seedlings that you've just planted in seed trays, never use a watering can, because sometimes the pressure that comes out the watering can be quite high and it can really start to disturb the seeds and the compost. So always use a container like this, which is a converted milk carton with holes drilled in the top, just to water. So that's how I will plant my seedlings. So now we know how to do that and how I get these lovely healthy seedlings germinated. Let's go on to the recommendations I'm going to make for the 7 winter vegetables veg that you should sow in September. Now my first recommendation is a brilliant winter veg to start with, and that is spinach. Spinach is an absolutely amazing addition to a lot of recipes and dishes, and also contains a lot of really good nutrients. Now there is quite a lot of spinach available to choose from. I tend to grow two varieties. This is a winter variety of spinach called Japanese hohoi. I will put the spelling of that on the screen if I haven't pronounced it correctly. And I've grown this for a number of years. Now is at a stage where I'll start to thin it out into individual module trays, and then I'll grow it on into the beds. And the good thing about spinach is that it will tolerate really cold temperatures. So you don't need to worry too much about it when it's outside in those harsh temperatures. Another variety I like is a variety called Samish, which is another great spinach. But I don't tend to sow both varieties at the same time. But because I've got these growing at the moment, in 3 to 4 weeks I will sow some of these, so I've got a combination of varieties. These, when thinned out, will give me quite a few plants, and they're nice and healthy, so they're a great winter veg to grow for the first time. Spinach can germinate at quite low temperatures. In fact, there is quite a temperature range for germination, anything from 10 degrees to 25 degrees centigrade, which is around about 40 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. The great thing about spinach is that you're able to harvest baby spinach leaves in around about 30 to 40 days, so it is a reasonably quick growing winter veg. If you want larger spinach leaves and you want it to mature, you need to leave that for around about 50 to 60 days. But spinach is a great suggestion for a winter veg that you can sow in September. Now another fantastic winter veg that I've not sown just yet, but I will be sowing over the next couple of days, is kale. I love kale. I don't know if you can see behind me, just in the green netting over there, I've already got some kale which is growing really nicely, and that's going to provide a really great supply for me over the coming months. But I will plant some more because this will tolerate really low temperatures and survive all through the winter. The flavour of kale is very much like a concentrated cabbage, and it's so full of goodness, it's really worth growing. Now again, due to lack of space, I will start my kale in seed trays and then transplant them out when they're large enough and when I have the space. Kale will need germination temperatures of around about 10 to 25 degrees centigrade, which is around about 50 to 75, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Now my favourite variety is the variety that's growing behind me, is a variety called dwarf green curled. I've referred to this variety on many seed growing videos before, and those who are regulars to the channel will know how much I like this variety of kale because it never lets me down and it's so easy to grow. I have, however, purchased another variety of kale that I've never grown before. It's called buttonhole kale, a variety called Star Maker. And I'm going to be trying a few of these seeds also over the next few weeks to see how I get on with that. I do like trying different types of vegetables, and visibly it looks very different from this type of kale. So I'm going to see how well it grows and what it tastes like compared to my favourite variety, and then make a decision whether I'll grow it again. But kale is another fantastic winter veg that you can grow in September. Now my next suggestion is another of my favourite vegetables and a fantastic winter veg, and that is Swiss chard. This is Swiss chard here, which was planted a few weeks ago. I'm looking at the label and it says the 5th of August, so maybe just over 2 weeks ago. But again, very healthy. This is now ready for transplanting. I've also got some more advanced Swiss chard growing in this raised bed over here, and I will sow a few more over the next few weeks. It is surprising how many seedlings and plants you can get out of one tray, and I'm looking through this, I'm probably thinking I've probably got about 20 to 25 in here, which is quite a few. Now the variety I'm growing is a variety called White Silver 2. Now this can be planted directly outdoors. It will need germination temperatures around about 10 to 30 degrees centigrade, which is 50 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So when we get towards the end of September and into October and the temperatures start to cool down, you might need to start thinking about sowing these in trays indoors first before you plant them out. Like most of the vegetables I'm recommending in this video, this is also cold tolerant and will tolerate temperatures down to around about -9 degrees centigrade or 15 degrees Fahrenheit without too much protection. So if you do get temperatures lower than that, you may need to provide some additional protection such as fleece. But Swiss chard is another great winter veg to sow in September. Now next we have an absolute favourite of mine, which I seem to be saying a lot in this video actually, but this one definitely comes into that category, and that is arugula or rocket. Very similar to lettuce, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but the reason I like rocket so much, it does give a variation in flavour compared to traditional lettuce. So if you've not tasted arugula or rocket before, it tastes very much more like a peppery type of taste compared to the more milder type of lettuce leaves that you would add and mix into your salads and other recipes. Now I've already got some rocket growing in the raised bed just to the side of me over here, so now's the time for me to start thinking about sowing some more so that when this is finished I'll have another crop to go directly in their place to give me that regular supply. Rocket needs germination temperatures of around about 10 to 20 degrees centigrade, which is around about 50 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit roughly, and it's pretty easy to grow. In fact, sowing rocket at this time of year in September is often better than sowing it in the warmer temperatures, because rocket or arugula has a tendency to bolt, i.e. it will grow very, very quickly and then start to flower in very warm temperatures. So this time of year is perfect for growing rocket or arugula. This will tolerate temperatures of around about -5 degrees centigrade or 25 degrees Fahrenheit. This is just a standard variety that I always grow called rocket mixed. So again, another frost tolerant winter veg that's easy to grow and that's something that you should think about growing in September. Now, based upon my last suggestion being arugula or rocket, you'll probably guess that my next suggestion is going to be lettuce. I couldn't really do a video recommending winter greens without mentioning lettuce. Now, the difference with lettuce in sowing in September, you do need to look at the variety. Now, because of the temperatures at the beginning of September, it is still possible for you to sow some of those common varieties of lettuce, such as I've got here, Little Gem, I've got some Lola Rossa, some Webbs and other varieties like that that grow really well over the summer period. The difference when I get to September is I have got one eye on the temperature over the coming months, and therefore I'm starting to think about cooler temperature tolerant varieties such as Winter Density, which I have a few growing here, and also a variety called Lamb's Lettuce. Both these varieties will be perfectly fine in cooler temperatures, but the other varieties, if you have to leave them outside in really cold temperatures, they wouldn't survive. So therefore, my recommendations for sowing lettuce in September would be to sow Winter Density or Lamb's Lettuce as two varieties to give you that supply of lettuce that you might need over the autumn and winter period. Now, most varieties of lettuce don't need really warm temperatures to germinate, so typically anything 10 degrees centigrade, round about 45 to 50 Fahrenheit is going to be good enough to germinate the lettuce. So germination isn't generally a major problem with lettuce. Now, I grow lettuce all year round, and I have some lettuce still in this bed over here, and that's produced for me all through the year. So the winter lettuce will then supplement that once this is finished. So it won't surprise you to know that lettuce is a fantastic suggestion for a winter veg that you can sow in September. Now, here's something that I came across a few years ago, and if you've never tried growing this before, you must give it a go. It's something called Mizuna. Did this as an experiment just to see how it would grow, but actually fell in love with the flavour. It's almost like a mustard leaf, and it has got that sort of dull mustard type of flavour and gives a completely different contrast in stir fries and salads and other types of recipes. And it really is a fantastic vegetable to grow and something perfect for sowing in September. These are Mizuna here. You can see the almost like rocket shaped type of leaves that it has. And it already smells absolutely wonderful. These are at a stage now where they will be transplanted and they'll grow to round about this height over here. These are a cut and come again crop. So I can harvest some of the leaves by cutting the leaves off, and then it will regrow. And then you get this regular supply over a long period of time. Now, I'm sure there's a number of varieties of Mizuna available, but the only variety I've ever grown is a variety called Wado. If you do want to try Mizuna, never tried it before, try and get this variety, because I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Mizuna wanted a germination temperature of around about 10 to 25 degrees centigrade, which is around about 50 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And like many of the other veg I've recommended in this video, this will also tolerate reasonably cold temperatures. Temperatures of around about -4 to -5 degrees centigrade, so around about 25 degrees Fahrenheit. So when I put this outside, we may get temperatures below that at certain times of the year, and therefore I'll cover it in fleece just to give it that extra level of protection. So even though it will tolerate some cold temperatures, it's not to the level that some of the other vegetables will tolerate, and I may need to give it some protection. So like a lot of vegetable growers, I've always got one eye on the weather to see what the predicted temperatures will be and decide whether I need to provide additional protection or not. But Mizuna is fantastic, and I do recommend, if you've never grown it before, that that's a vegetable that you should start thinking about sowing in September. Now, my final suggestion for this video is something I also stumbled across a few years ago as an experiment, and that is Chinese cabbage. Some people may refer to that as bok choy. I've already started growing some pak choy. This Chinese cabbage is a variety called Kiseki F1, and another fantastic winter vegetable you might consider sowing in September. This will need germination temperatures of 7 to 24 degrees centigrade, which is 45 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And this can tolerate some cool temperatures, but nowhere near the level of some of the other vegetables. So you're really looking at 0 to -1. That's around about 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So they're not quite as frost tolerant as some of the other vegetables that I've recommended in the video. So they will need some protection if you're going to grow these outdoors. If you have indoor growing space, then fantastic. But if you have to grow these outdoors, they will need protection against the frost, particularly in those really cool temperatures. But Chinese cabbage is a fantastic addition to your vegetable garden. If you've never grown it before, definitely try sowing this in September. So there you have my 7 suggestions for winter veg that you can sow in September. Remember, this is winter veg, and there are plenty of other vegetables that you could think about sowing in September. So please refer to my other video, which I'll link in the video description below, so you can check out a wider range of vegetables that you might think about sowing in September. But I do hope you've enjoyed the video and it's given you 1 or 2 ideas. As I mentioned earlier in the video, where I get most of my seeds from looks like it's going to be closing down. So I'm really interested to know where you get your seeds from, just to give me 1 or 2 ideas. I am based in the UK, but if there are online suppliers in the USA or other parts of the world, then clearly they may also be an option. So if you can add that to the comments below, that'll be absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much for watching the video, and I really hope you enjoyed it and it's given you 1 or 2 ideas. And if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to subscribe to the channel for future videos on how to sow and grow fruit, vegetables and flowers, and 1 or 2 recipe ideas, don't forget to press the subscribe button. And I'll see you all on the next video.